Buenas noches, good evening. Com està, senyor Anwar?
Good and tired.
Vostè és advocat de Clara Ponsatí. Just aquesta setmana ha fet un any que van enviar a presó tot un seguit de líders polítics. També fa un any que la seva clienta, que Puigdemont, Serret, Puig i Comín van marxar cap a Bèlgica. No sé si vostè creu en les casualitats. Creu que és casual que just ara, que fa un any de tot això, es presentin les acusacions i la Fiscalia presenti la petició de penes?
It's been an interesting year. I think yesterday the Spanish state showed the world what they think about the word justice. They have criminalized the right to opinions, the right to vote. They have violated the presumption of innocence, the right to a fair trial, freedom of expression, freedom of association, and the right to liberty and security. So the real question being asked when I sat here a few months ago is, what is left of the word justice? Because in Europe, the rest of Europe, it seems to us that when I began the representation of Clara Ponsatí, we said that we believed this was political persecution and it was driven by vengeance. And I find it astonishing that the prisoners, the political prisoners, the word political prisoners itself is shocking in a European democracy. Democracies don't hold political prisoners, and that they should face up to 25 years in prison when those who are in La Manada get derisory prison sentences, when case after case we have seen police officers, Spanish police officers, are alleged to have used violence. And I say the word alleged because I believe in the presumption of innocence as a lawyer. But in Scotland, we saw the pictures. Everybody in Europe saw the pictures. Where are the thousands of officers standing trial? In the Supreme Court in Madrid. Because justice is supposed to be blind, it's supposed to be equal, but it seems to me that if you're Catalan, then justice doesn't apply to you. And the question that people keep saying is this going to be a show trial? And I have to say that sadly many people believe when they watch this process that it's unfair, it's illegitimate, and it can never be a crime. Because I've heard many of the Spanish commentators say, oh, they committed a criminal offence. How in a democracy can it be a criminal offence to vote? It is enshrined in international law, the right to self-determination, the right to vote. To send somebody to prison for up to 25 years for rebellion, we haven't seen the evidence of the violence. Whether it's rebellion or whether it's sedition, as far as many people are concerned, of those who have seen, believe these people are innocent, they should be released immediately. But I suspect very much that even the fact that they want to take them from Catalonia to Madrid is another humiliation of the Catalan people. But the Catalan people, I see, are determined, they're resolute, they want to fight back peacefully, and they have no option now. And now Spain needs to realise that they use violence and repression. It didn't send people back into the polling booths, it didn't send them home. They keep coming. I was at the Diada, 1.5 million people were on the streets. And even if they send these people to prison, they will be free one day, and they will be free when Catalonia has independence. Because it's not if, it's not a question of if, it is a question of when Catalonia will be independent and have its freedom.
Senyor Anwar, precisament en el discurs que vostè va fer a la Diada va demanar a Pedro Sánchez que alliberés els presos, però que no creu en la separació de poders.
Well, let's be honest here. There is no separation of powers. Pedro Sánchez, to me, there was a great deal of hope when Pedro Sanchez took power, because the word is socialist attached to him. And in the United Kingdom and in Scotland, we often associate the socialists as being those who were involved in the Republicans, who fought back against Franco's fascists. Yet, a year on, I think that Pedro Sanchez can be described as a wolf in sheep's clothing. He's whether it's Rajoy's old party or whether it's Pedro Sanchez, they're two sides of the same coin. And he said he wanted a political solution. Is this a political solution? To threaten politicians who demonstrate their mandate? They were given the mandate by the Catalan people to vote and to be sent to prison for that. So, separation of powers? Spain has shown no separation of powers. Repeatedly, as I said earlier, the rights to vote, the freedom of expression, the freedom of movement, the freedom of association, the right to liberty, the right to security, all these things are taken for granted in Spain, but not in Catalonia. So it is the responsibility of Sanchez to show that he is different from Rajoy. And up until now, he has acted in exactly the same way, if not worse, than Rajoy, because he gave hope that he would do it. You do not, and I said it at Diada, I said it to Sanchez, that when a gangster comes into your house and he holds a gun to your children and to your family's head, and then a week later he's holding them hostage, and he says to the father of the house, listen, come, sit down, have a cup of tea, let's negotiate. That's not negotiation. That's terrorism. That's state terrorism. And so the parallels are drawn here. There is no separation of powers because it seems to us, when we were gathering the evidence for Clara Ponsatí's case, we were going to cite Rajoy. We were going to cite the ministers who publicly pronounced the guilt of Ponsatí and all the ministers before any trial. In England, in Scotland, in the rest of Europe, ministers, the media, cannot comment before a trial and pronounce somebody guilty. But it seems to me that Spain has already decided their guilt and now are just going through the process for themselves to prove how tough they can be on the Catalan government. Because I think many people in Scotland are shocked when you consider that because history is repeating itself, because out of the 11 presidents in 100 years, I find it shocking when a few weeks ago I went to the Parliament and they had the pictures of all the presidents, and they went, out of 11 presidents, 9 have been jailed, executed or exiled. 83 years ago, they demanded 30 years prison and execution for the head of Mossos. What has changed since? History is repeating itself, but that means the responsibility rests, a heavy responsibility rests on the shoulders, of the Catalan leaders, because they must not make the same mistakes that their forefathers made.
Precisament, en aquesta ullada que estava fent ara al passat, ha estat especialment polèmic un fragment de l'escrit de la Fiscalia sobre el paper de Jordi Cuixart el dia 20 de setembre, i vostè, un fragment en què deia no passaran, que era una proclama antifeixista que es fa servir, la Fiscalia la fa servir per justificar la rebel·lió. Vostè hi va fer servir aquest crit en l'acte de Lledoners?
I used it at the Diada. And in fact, I didn't just use it at Diada, I didn't just use this slogan, this anti-fascist slogan, this anti-Nazi slogan, this anti-racist slogan at the Diada, or when I became involved with Catalonia. I used it from the age of 20. I'm 50 now. So at the age of 20, when I became an anti-Nazi and anti-racist. Every demonstration where we marched against the fascists, where we stopped them organizing, where we said never again. And yesterday, to read that no pasaran is seen as a threat by the Spanish state is a disgrace, because no pasaran is a slogan against fascism. So the question that should be asked is, why are those on behalf of the Spanish state saying they see that slogan as a threat? I have watched the videos of Jordi Sanchez and Jordi Cuixart, and nowhere have I seen that they have incited violence. Quite the reverse. And yesterday at Lodones prison, I stood on the platform and I said, no pasaran, no pasaran, no pasaran. And we should all say no pasaran. We should be proud of the history of the anti-fascist movement, whether it's against Franco, whether it's against Hitler, whether it's against Mussolini, or even today in my hometown where I was born, Liverpool. The fascists were surrounded by the police. They could not leave the station, and the chant of the anti-fascists was no pasaran, no pasaran, no pasaran. So, how is that a crime? Why does the Spanish state consider that crime? And if that's just one of those, that raises questions about the prosecution. How is this prosecution being driven? What is behind it? Why is this a crime today?
Centrem-nos en el judici. Com pot afectar el judici i la sentència als polítics que són a l'estranger, com Clara Ponsatí?
Well, it has a real impact, because Clara, for a start, is very sad. People said when the judiciary withdrew the warrant, everybody said, we've won. And I said it was a partial victory. I believe that the Spanish state, those acting on their behalf, did not want to lose again another case. They didn't want their ministers cited in a Scottish court. We said we intended to put these people on trial and expose the process. So people said, oh, we've won. I said, no, we haven't won. Because I said, we don't win until Clara Ponsatí can come home, unless she can walk the streets again, she can see her family, her colleagues, her friends, and be free to take part in the political process if she wills. Now that isn't happening, so with this process now, it does have an impact, because the question that arises for us is, nothing seems to have changed, it's getting worse. And the question that arises is, at the end of the trial, what next? Do they come back for another warrant? What I said to the prisoners yesterday in Lodones was, I believe that their freedom will come when Catalonia is independent. And increasingly Clara also believes that. So I think now it's time that I said it, Diada, I said it yesterday. Spain can criminalize, they can lock up 9, they can lock up 18, but they cannot imprison an idea. They cannot imprison 2 million people, which means they have already lost. People weren't scared. People are not scared now. Those prisoners are not scared. Clara's not scared. And most of all that counts is the people are not scared. And Spain has to realize that if they want to win back their respect, if they want to show that they are a modern democracy worthy of respect, that they do not walk in the footsteps of Franco, if they are not dictated to by institutions and individuals who were put in place by Franco, then allow the people of Catalonia, of their own free will, to make a decision to say yes or to say no. That's what democracies do. What's wrong with Spain? Franco's gone. Let the people decide.
Creu que hi haurà interès a Europa per seguir aquest judici?
Absolutely. I think tactically the Spanish state withdrew the warrants because they were horrified with the spotlight it created in Belgium, in Germany, in Scotland. And so they thought they can't fight wars on four fronts because I believe this has been conducted as a political war. And they wish to conduct this trial, and they wish to prove to people within Spain how tough they are. So we see now what happens over the period of the trial, but I think it's very difficult for, there has to be a plan. I think, as I've said to politicians, I've said to other individuals there, I'm from the outside, so it's easy for me to say, but there has to be a plan now. There has to be a plan for the middle of the trial, and there has to be a plan for the end of the trial. The politicians declared independence, and once the genie's out of the bottle, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. Independence is there in the heart of the people. Now the politicians need to take the steps to make sure that independence actually happens. Because that's really the only way these people will be free.
No sé si l'estic entenent bé, està dient que un cop acabi el judici han de seguir tirant endavant la independència, la promesa de la independència, han de tornar a proclamar la república?
No. I believe that the process, they've declared independence, so technically speaking, Catalonia should be free now. It doesn't wait till the end of the trial. The plan has to take effect beforehand, during, and after. If this is a political prosecution or political persecution, then you have to fight a political battle on the basis of why those people are being sent to prison. Therefore, if you do not accept the legitimacy of the Spanish state, then you have to fight a battle, not just in the courts, but also in Catalonia, on the question of independence. And I think that people are tired. People want something to happen. They want to move the movement forward. They are saying enough is enough to Spain. And in order for that to happen, that means you can't just have 1.5 million people at Diada and then tell 1.5 million people to come next year again. People want to know every day, every week, what is the next step. You have to keep moving forward, because Spain is a very old country with traditions, with an empire similar to Britain. And the British were very good at divide and rule. And if you make the mistake of saying wait till the end of the trial, then the unity starts to break. And the people are united. So to make sure the unity doesn't break, because I believe some of the politicians are already showing their true colours by backing off. A small minority, but some of them are not actually moving in the direction. And I wonder what sort of deals, they're not in government, they're not in power, but I'm wondering what deals are you doing behind closed doors? You can't one day say we're for independence and then the next day change to self-determination. If it's independence now, it's independence tomorrow, it's independence during the trial, it's independence at the end of the trial. Because people are already saying that they believe the verdict will be guilty, then what? So people need to prepare up until the trial. That is the way you give political prisoners hope. That is the way you give people hope. That is the way you change history and make sure that you do not repeat the history of the last 100 years, but more than that, 300 years. Not just the last 100 years, but 300 years of Catalonia, of what Spain has done.
No només hi ha polítics que han marxat, també hi ha altres representants de la societat civil, com per exemple activistes de CDRs o també músics com el raper Valtònic, que han hagut de marxar. Quin impacte té això sobre l'opinió pública europea?
I don't think it's a question of going abroad. I think tactics were very important. I think the tactics that were deployed by, for instance, Gonzalo Boye, fantastic lawyer, courageous campaigner, the exiles, the battle they have fought has put the spotlight, the political prisoners. I think Quim Torra, who is in a very difficult position. Everybody is trying to take it in the direction of independence. But what I am saying with the greatest of respect is, Spain expects Catalonia to do the same thing it has always done. And when I was a child, we had a nursery rhyme. I don't know if you have it in Catalonia. It's called the Grand Old Duke of York. He used to say the Grand Old Duke of York used to march his army to the top of the hill, and then he'd march them down again. Then he'd march them to the top of the hill, and then he'd march them down again. And eventually the army got smaller and smaller. Don't do that to the people. The people are ready. The people want independence. Now what they need is for all the organizations to unite, and there can be no compromise. There can be no negotiation with Pedro Sanchez or the Spanish state when they have shown they are not willing to negotiate, they're not willing to compromise, they will not even discuss self-determination. They will not even discuss the word self-determination, never mind independence, but self-determination. So if they won't do that, then it's not just about the budget, it's saying enough. We will now do what we need to do.
Però el que està proposant és una ruptura, trencar directament.
Well, on the day that declared independence, that should have been the debate. I think the people of Catalonia gave the mandate to the independence parties to break. They wanted independence. And I appreciate that the Spanish state and those in the Spanish media try to say you don't have enough people. But come on, despite the violence, despite the threats, despite 15,000 Spanish police being set in, people came out to vote, people were not scared, people stayed in the polling booths, and the majority of this country wants to see independence. And as I said, they cannot put the genie back in the bottle.
Però això, senyor Anwar, és molt discutible perquè aquesta majoria, de quin percentatge estem parlant? No s'ha demostrat que sigui superior al 50%, ni tan sols que hi arribi al 50%.
When you have the vote that took place, I'm not talking about elections. Elections are different because, like in Scotland, we have the Scottish National Party believes in independence. And Labour used to be in power for 50 odd years. Labour is now number 3 because they made a mistake. They assumed everybody in the Labour Party was against independence. And in Catalonia, there are other parties who are left-wing, but there'll be people who support those parties who also support independence. So let's not talk about what people win in elections. Let's talk about, on October the 1st, the people who came out. When you have, what was Spanish state so worried about? What are they so terrified about? If they thought they could win the vote, they wouldn't have sent 15,000 police in. They wouldn't have stolen the ballot boxes. They wouldn't have taken the 700,000 votes that are missing. They wouldn't have been innocent people being attacked with batons and being terrorized. They would have let the people vote. That's democracy. In Scotland, we had to accept we lost independence. They gave us the right to vote, and we lost. We'll win next time, but we lost this time.
Senyor Anwar, li volen fer preguntes també als periodistes que tenim aquesta nit. Laura, comencem per tu, si vols.
Sí, hola, bona tarda, bona nit. Bé, vostè avui ha citat a Franco i no és la primera vegada que ho fa, no? Vostè va dir fins i tot que el general Franco estaria orgullós de l'Espanya actual. El Consell Europeu ha dit que a Espanya hi ha separació de poders, l'Espanya democràtica ha sigut un dels primers països on s'ha permès el matrimoni homosexual, és un país on hi ha llibertat de premsa, perquè si no vostè i jo no estaríem aquí avui parlant, segurament, on hi ha el dret garantit de manifestar-se, perquè cada any ho veiem amb les diades i amb totes les manifestacions que succeeixen a Catalunya i arreu del territori. De debò creu que això és l'Espanya que Franco estaria orgullosa de tot això?
Yes, absolutely. Because if you, let's give an example. Fascism, Adolf Hitler. In Germany, there is not a single street name, there is no mausoleum, there is no memorial dedicated to Adolf Hitler, a man who was involved in the Holocaust, the murder of 6 million Jews, the murder of trade unionists, the murder of gay people, anybody who wanted free speech, Democrats. And Franco was a very good friend of Adolf Hitler, because after all, the Gestapo handed one of your presidents, the Catalan presidents, to Francoists to execute. And the idea that today you have foundations, you have people who wear uniforms and sing Francoist songs, you have the valley or the mausoleum where they are removing him. I accept Pedro Sanchez wants to remove him. But to be told yesterday that Franco's remains will be interned in the cathedral in Madrid. Really? Really? Is that the way that Franco has been removed from public life? Because I've seen the pictures. I've seen the Francoists marching on the streets of Barcelona. I've seen them in Madrid. I've seen the flags. I've seen the abuse I receive on social media from people who cannot resist attacking me for being Pakistani origin, for being a Muslim, for reverting to fascist arguments, the same way as the fascists in the UK use against me. So absolutely, I think Franco would be extremely proud of the system he created, the institutions he created, that values the unity of the Spanish state above the freedom to vote, the freedom of expression, the right to democracy, because for them, Catalonia can never be separated from Spain. And if they actually believed in democracy, then they would have given the Catalan people the right to decide their own destiny. And if Spain was truly proud of its legacy, a changed legacy, a real democracy, then they would have given the Catalan people the same right that the UK Parliament under David Cameron gave to the people of Scotland. Because in Scotland, the Parliament was given a mandate by the people to vote for independence, and in Catalonia, the people gave the Catalan Parliament a mandate to vote for independence. They didn't commit any criminal offence, yet for some reason, months pass, people are locked up, people are attacked. It's unacceptable to me to see people attacked for putting a vote in a box. It's unacceptable for me to see people being sent to prison for 25 years for exercising a democratic right to vote when rapists can walk the streets.
Gemma.
Hola, bona nit. La justícia europea ha deixat en evidència la justícia espanyola, però això no ha fet tirar enrere la justícia espanyola davant dels presos polítics, no? Creu que d'alguna manera els ha perjudicat?
Do I think the political prisoners will be harmed? Is that the question?
En els presos.
Well, I said to one of your guests earlier on that he was coming on after me, the ex-director of Mossos. I said he's lucky because 83 years ago they were calling for the execution of the director or the head of the Mossos. They executed the president. They executed the head of Barcelona Football Club. So at one level, maybe things have changed, as my friend says from Madrid. Maybe things have changed a bit for the better, but I think the European leaders should be ashamed of their silence, of their complicity in what has taken place, because Strasbourg and the European Union was set up to make sure that never again the mistakes of the 1930s and the 1940s will be repeated. The Holocaust, the fascism that we saw on the streets of Europe, never again. And sadly, once more, just because it's a European country, they should have spoken up. They should have taken the lead. I'm proud that our First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, did speak out in Scotland, but she was one of a very, very small minority. But harming the political prisoners, I said after the Diada that I believe that Spain has set a trap. They want Catalonia to repeat the same mistakes as the past. And there is a real danger that when the prisoners are taken to Madrid and they put on trial in the Supreme Court in Madrid, and not if, but when they are convicted, will Spain then keep them in Madrid as political hostages? And then the pressure will become on Catalonia or the Catalan government to then have to negotiate for the return of those prisoners back to Catalonia, to their families, to their friends, and so delay the process again. So when you say harm, they are already being harmed. To be locked up in a cell, they committed no violence. Nobody can show me a video of them punching someone. Nobody can show me a video of them shouting at people to say attack. Nobody can show me of them, when you say embezzlement, of stealing money for personal gain, because that's what embezzlement means in our language, in our penal code. And today the person who created the penal code said in the newspaper he can see no rebellion. Rebellion meant armed uprising. That's why it was created. There was no armed uprising. So in terms of harm to the political prisoners, the harm is already being done. By locking them up, by taking away their freedom, and then when they take to Madrid, I see that 1.5 hours to be handcuffed, to be taken to the trial, to have a trial Monday to Friday, 9 to 6. The lawyers not to have an opportunity to discuss with their client's case, not to be given the evidence. That's a form of psychological warfare, is the way we used to see in Russia and places like China and Asia and other places. So the damage has already been done, but those prisoners can stand proud that they are determined to fight back and determined to expose what is taking place in the name of democracy. And so I believe the harm has already happened, but it is really important for the European leaders, for the European media, and also I say for the people in Spain to put aside their political differences with Catalonia. You don't have to support independence to say that what is happening to these politicians is wrong. You can believe in justice and you can say, no, we can disagree, but you don't send them to prison. You don't take them away from their family. You don't lock them up for 25 years, 11 years, 7 years, whatever the figures are, 211 years. That's what Spain, the people of Spain, need to speak out now as a voice. Those who are anti-fascist, those who are anti-Franco, those who are pro-democracy, those who are so-called socialists. Time for them to stop being the silent majority and speak up. And that will keep the prisoners safe. But ultimately, if they spend even one more day in prison, that is harm to them. So they have to be freed.
Queden dues preguntes i he de demanar brevetat tant en les preguntes com en les respostes, senyor Anwar.
Okay.
Bea?
Good evening and so many thanks. Creo que es consciente de que las declaraciones que usted está haciendo aquí esta noche son muy importantes por su claridad, por su valentía y por ser usted quien es. No es un simple opinador, sino el abogado de una de las personas encausadas. Hablaba usted de seguir adelante en el proceso de independencia, para seguir echando un pulso de alguna manera y demostrar que esto va de política y de determinación. Y hablaba usted de la vergüenza a nivel europeo, que es lo que creo que mucha gente en Cataluña siente, la soledad y la decepción por parte de líderes europeos. ¿Cree usted que si se diera el paso adelante en hacer efectiva la República de Cataluña, aparecerían por fin los apoyos tan esperados, entre otros, por ejemplo, el gobierno de Reino Unido, que como usted bien ha señalado, tiene muy claro que el derecho a decidir es un derecho fundamental? ¿O qué es lo que tiene que pasar para que aparezcan los posicionamientos internacionales?
Li recordo que la resposta ha de ser breu, senyor Anwar.
Okay, good question. I believe that at the end of the day, this is not about Europe. The European leaders should be ashamed, but power rests with the people of Catalonia. There's been too much interference for 300 years, and even now with the European leaders doing their deals with the Spanish politicians. Destiny and the power to decide the destiny rests with the Catalan people. They must make their minds up. They must push the movement forward. They must push their politicians. Many courageous politicians who have difficult tasks ahead of them. I don't envy their task. They are principled. But the people is where the power rests. They gave the mandate last time. And I believe that when 1.5 million people come on the street for the Diada, they didn't just come to march to the top of the hill and march back down again. They came for independence. And that is where the new politics is growing. And I see an interesting debate taking place with the primaries. That is one to watch, of people saying they want a new political culture, a new way to drive this forward, with the ANC and with other organisations, so be it. But it's for Catalonia to decide. It's not for me, it's not for Spain, it's not for Angela Merkel or anybody else, it's for Catalonia to decide.
Jordi.
Està parlant molt de la determinació de la gent, dels catalans independentistes. No sé si veu aquesta mateixa determinació en els partits, en les entitats, en el govern, si creu que s'estan equivocant en alguna cosa i si no creu que han de ser conscients que el que vostè està demanant que es faci passa perquè hi hagi segurament més gent a la presó o més gent a l'exili.
No, I don't think it means more people ending up in exile or in prison. I think that, as I said, they can't imprison 2 million people. They tried to terrorize the people of Catalonia on the 1st of October. And I saw, you all saw, people who were teenagers, people who were middle-aged, and the most resolute, the people most determined to fight I saw with grey hair, all people in their 80s and their 90s who came to vote and didn't care if a baton was used, if a police officer stood in front of them, if a police officer attacked them. They said they will exercise their right to vote. And the last time I saw something like that was when the people of South Africa stood up and went to use their vote. So that's where the strength lies. That is the strength. And that, I don't mean to criticize. It's not my job to criticize from the outside. I said people have difficult decisions to make, and I know. For instance, you know, it has an impact on Quim Torra and others who, when they go to see their friends in prison and come out again, it has an impact on Clara Ponsatí. It has an impact on everybody to know that people are suffering. And they are determined. They want to see independence. It's part of their lifeblood. But criticism is the way, criticism, you use the word criticism, but I think people are the ones who decide. This isn't the case of people at the top know what's best. It's never that way. And there is no independence country in this world. Any country in this world, independence has been won by a handful of people. It's been won by the people on the street. And in Catalonia, it will be won by the people on the street. It will be won by people mobilizing. It will be won by trade unions, by general strikes, by whatever steps they have to take peacefully, by any means necessary. That is what will bring independence, and that has to be... I think I'm speaking too fast for the interpreter. Again. So that's how independence will be achieved. Sorry.
Senyor Anwar, li han retret el seu activisme com a advocat, que també fa política ara.
I was an activist first before I became a lawyer, but I believe that being a human rights lawyer is indivisible from being an activist. As far as politics are concerned, I refuse to go into politics in Scotland.
A Catalunya sí?
I feel half Catalan now, and if I could move here, I don't think my children want me to move, but if I could, I would love to move. I will hopefully one day move here. But I think, being serious, I mean, I know what police violence is about, because when I was 21, racist police officers took me behind a lane, smashed my teeth out, because they saw me as a black boy with a big mouth, making trouble on demonstrations. I was sent to jail, I was threatened with imprisonment, I stood trial, and then I decided the best way to learn from that history that I had positively, rather than just demonstrations or being violent or fighting back against the police, was to use the law. So it clearly does have an impact on me when I see police officers abusing the law, abusing the uniform. And for me, I'm a human being. So for me, the word, you know, I think it was this case of, it doesn't matter if it happens in Catalonia or if it happens in Spain or if it happens in Pakistan or in Saudi Arabia or in Scotland or in England. If you're a human rights campaigner, if you're a human rights lawyer, then you stand up and fight for justice anywhere around the world, not just in your own country. And of course, I feel half Catalan now, and many friends in Catalonia, and I believe I have a responsibility as well to speak up. Because why shouldn't we? Otherwise, when there is silence from our European leaders, then of course we want our leaders in Scotland, in the UK, and for people to speak up. Because in 2 minutes away from my office, we have a statue dedicated to the international brigades who left Scotland to come and fight against Franco's fascists. They gave up their lives, and every year there is a memorial. People lay flowers. But there's no point in remembering the dead who gave up their lives if you do not remember the living who are fighting fascism today. So if that's political activism, so be it. I don't apologize.
Senyor Anwar, moltes gràcies. Thank you very much
so
for being here. Good night. Good night. Good luck. Feia referència ara, Aamer Anwar, a un fet curiós, si més no, una coincidència històrica. Fa 30 anys, no sé si